Okay, you guys, 2% fam, welcome back. This is episode 6, I do believe, in the We Are the 2% pod. Thank you for listening. This is going to be a good one. I'm excited about this episode. And I'll introduce our guest in just a little bit, and we are going to talk with her. It's going to be a good one. But first, I wanted to talk about, it's a Saturday morning here. This is going to come out in a few weeks, and you won't care what day it is, and that's fine. But it's a Saturday morning in Tampa. It is a beautiful day out. But last night, we took our daughter. They had like a skate party. At like a skating rink, right? And like I grew up doing that, like in the 90s. Yeah, that's all we did. Like our parents would drop us off at the skating rink for hours, and we would just be there skating around, listening like Too Legit to Quit, and like nobody cared. There were no cell phones. You couldn't check in with kids. Like it was just like we were just there, like having the time of our lives. And as I'm there, I'm thinking like, do kids do this anymore? And that place was so packed.
It really was.
So my answer is yes, they do. But what was funny was people our age there skating, like they just went 20 years back in time, and they were like on the speed skates just bopping, and I was like, wow, they're really good at this. And the last time I tried to skate on a quad skate, my ankles were like, nope.
I won't do it. I won't do the quad skates.
Yeah, you do the inline.
I do the inline.
Yeah,
because I was a Mighty Ducks kid. Like I was a kid that
do you know
grew
that
up
movie?
on the Mighty Ducks movies. Those were the best. Like that was, I wanted to be Charlie Conway.
Yeah,
like from Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
And so like I was like if I was trying to ice skate all the time. If I wasn't ice skating, I was rollerblading, and I was Charlie.
Okay.
As a
all
kid.
Right. Yeah, you thought you were Charlie.
Except I didn't play hockey because my mom knew I'd get injured terribly.
No, I mean it was just fun, and it was like it was so funny to like reminisce back to those days of skate world down in town and country represent. But yeah, it was like a good time, and the kids were having a blast, and they were like, but they were dancing to more modern music because at the end they like shut the skating rink down, and then they just let the kids go out there and dance, and so they were doing like
without skates
the Watch Me Whip, Watch Me Nay Nay, and I was like, my 41-year-old self is over there like, yeah, you get it, kids, and it just felt so funny, like going back in time. It was a good time.
It really was.
Yeah.
It really was.
With real life stories on display, gifts and talents in every way, building up a community. Have you had your 2% today?
All right, so I am not over-promising our guest this episode. I'm really excited that she's here. If you guys have gone to Redeemer at all or have watched online, you've probably seen her sing. So we have Elizabeth Sanchez, right? And wait, we've got, what's your married name again?
Sanchez-Nelsen.
Sanchez-Nelsen, thank you. Okay. All right. So we've got, and you go by Ellie, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because I've heard people call you that, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to call her that until she tells me that she can, because I just never know with nicknames.
Are there nicknames for Elizabeth that you don't like to be called?
So usually people like assume it's like Beth.
Really?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Or Liz
But they
or
don't,
something?
or Liz, yeah. But they never call me. They're like, oh, do you go by this? I was like, no, I go by Ellie. But I'm fine being called Elizabeth or Ellie. It's just whichever people say. I think Ellie's shorter, so it's like when my mom would call my name, it's like Ellie rather than Elizabeth. It's like a lot more to say.
Yeah, we do that with our daughter. We just call her M or
yeah.
Booger or, just whatever.
Yeah, because like growing up, like, I was Andrew, or my friends would call me Drew. But for some reason, if people called me Andy, it didn't settle right.
Yeah.
Like I never really, and I had like one of my best friends' name is Andy, and like it doesn't sound cringe to like call him that, but
I learned the hard way not to call him Andy, so I just want to make sure.
If you ever hear somebody call me Andy, just know that I'm not gonna be that guy that's like, don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm just inside. I'm gonna be like, ugh.
Yeah.
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 So
all right.
that's why I didn't want to be like, hey Liz, and you're like,
yeah, don't call me that.
Yeah.
So if you see her in the hallways at church, it's Elizabeth or Ellie, but whatever you
not
prefer.
Beth.
Okay, and so she is married to Isaiah, and she is an amazing singer. If you've heard her at all, you know that. Beautiful worshiper in the band. And you are, and I probably am going to butcher this because I don't like truly understand what you're doing, and you can explain it to us a little bit. But she's a neuroscience student working on your master's or PhD?
PhD.
Good night. Okay. Yeah, we skipped over a whole like thing there. And so I guess break that down for us a little bit. Like what? Like, okay. Cause this is the brain, right? Like that like controls everything. And like,
well, considering what you do, break us down.
Yeah.
For what you
Tell
do
me why my
for
brain
us.
is so broken. No, so like just
Yeah.
give us a little bit about whatever you can share.
Yeah. So I am a second year PhD student, and during my program, like there's a semester where you can like rotate around labs. So like I wasn't like really like a neuroscience committed student, and the lab that I really enjoyed was neuroscience. So that's just how it ended up in neuroscience.
Nice.
I really do like the brain just because, I mean, that kind of like controls our emotions and our thoughts. And it's like psychology is so interesting that I was like, okay, like it'd be fun to learn more about the brain too.
Yeah.
But my lab focuses on like Alzheimer's disease.
Oh, wow.
And so I've always found like dementia super interesting. My grandpa suffered from it. And so it's just like a really like topic that like I was like, okay, like if I have to do this for 5 years, then might as well choose a topic that like also inspires me, not just like I have to do it, you know?
Yeah.
And we do a lot of alcohol research and how that affects Alzheimer's, and also with sleeping like patterns and how that affects Alzheimer's. And yeah, that's a little tidbit.
cool.
I work with mice, which is super, doesn't seem like my type of personality, but somehow I'm doing it. So
That's awesome. So with sleeping patterns, so I'm assuming, and I'm no neuroscientist, but like what, like 8, 9? Is that 8, 9 hours a night? Is that so far what you would have succumbed to? Because I don't.
You
do that.
are like in trouble,
I am
my
in,
friend.
I'm asking for a friend.
You are that friend.
Yeah.
The 8 hours is actually even for adults, because I know sometimes they're like, okay, like, you know, kids need this amount of hours, and then you're older, like you can have less, like 6 or 7. But yeah, 8 hours is still good. Even my boss sleeps 8 hours, and I was like, okay, I need to sleep 8 hours.
Oh my goodness. I don't know how it happened in our crazy busy life. I seem to get 8 or more every night, so I'm good.
That's
Hey, Jamie's like.
That's
It's every night. I'm militant
She is so
about bedtime.
committed to like getting to bed at a normal time.
That's good.
I'll
And
just like
that's-
stop what we're doing and be like, I'm going to bed now.
I envy that because that's the point where my brain's like, all right, now let's focus on these million things.
Yes.
So that's where, and I know that there's a lot of people out there probably like that too, but
It's so hard changing. Since
yeah.
I got married, I changed my like sleeping patterns because Isaiah is a morning person and I never was a morning person. Like if I could sleep in, I would sleep in as long as I could.
right.
And I would study late at night, even till like 4 a.m. sometimes.
Oh, geez,
But then when I married him, I actually stopped liking staying up late. Like I was like getting tired earlier.
Yeah.
And then now, like last night, I literally was in my bed like at 9, just like getting ready to sleep.
See, it's such a beautiful thing.
And then waking up like naturally at 7. Like just like my body's like has a like circadian rhythm already set, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is actually really nice.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. It is. I mean, I could talk about the brain for hours because obviously not studying it like you are, but I've read a lot about the brain, just wanting to know like how trauma can rewire the brain and stuff. So that's like where I've usually focused in my own self research, but it's just so fascinating how it all works. And like you grow up knowing like, oh, the brain controls everything, but like to not understand how it works, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice, because it, like, knowing how it works, I've been able to go, oh, okay, that's why I cope like this if something bad happens, or that's what, so it is really interesting. It's so fascinating. And so that's not what this podcast is about, but I seriously could talk about it for hours. Cause like, even like, one of the things, and I said I wasn't going to do it, but like one of the things for Alzheimer's patients, and I've seen like studies and, there's lots of videos on YouTube about like music and how music for them, like, they may not remember anything, but if you put a song on that they know, bam, they go right back. And it's like, it's crazy.
There was a video about this. This nurse that worked in like a nursing home with patients who like had severe Alzheimer's. So like they had one gentleman on there, real old gentleman, that he like, it was in a wheelchair, just kind of sitting there staring off, not like looking at anything really. And then the lady put on some headphones and found out from family members that he really liked Cab Calloway. And so then she made like a playlist of Cab Calloway, put the headphones on him, and he just like sat up, just started singing. He started playing the instruments from Cab Calloway and just lit up. And then while the music was playing, the nurse was able to start having a conversation with him about music. And he's like, oh, I love Cab Calloway. And he like just lit up. And like I got like so teary-eyed when I saw
do
that.
all the time.
Yeah.
With those videos, I always get so teary.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You wonder really how, like, man, how's that bringing them back? And again, you probably know the answer. So,
or you know more than we do, at least. You're closer to
I wonder
it
what the mice would do if you tried to put like tiny little headphones on them.
Oh my gosh, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, play him some like Alvin and the Chipmunks or something.
The music of their
what's the
people.
Cinderella song where like the little mice are singing, "We can do it, we can
Oh,
do it,
my
we can do it."
Okay, we've gone way down a rabbit hole here. Okay.
I'm a dad. I know.
Okay, so we're going to move into another segment called Story Time. So we've kind of touched a little bit already on what you do for a living and like what you're studying and all this stuff, and briefly on Isaiah. So we'll move kind of into the part where we get to know you better. So I guess the first question, tell us a little bit about how you met Isaiah and how all that unfolded, and then your role at Redeemer, like on the worship team or wherever else you might serve.
Oh, yeah. So Isaiah and I met in undergrad. I'm pretty sure it was his senior year and my junior year. He just switched majors, and so we ended up being in the same class. And I think it was, I don't know if it was a chemistry class, but, you know, people would say, like, we have chemistry and stuff like that.
That's a dad joke.
Roll with it. I mean, yeah, it's chemistry class.
Yeah. So we were, just hanging out with friends and stuff. And then I had a big crush on him. But, like, I'm just so bad at sharing my emotions. So he didn't know it all. And, like, it took a really long time for him to, like tell me that he liked him. He liked me too. And it was so funny, that story too, because like I just like held him with like a really long pause, like because I was just so shocked and didn't know what to say, and I was like well, I think you're a really good friend, and he was like thinking that I was gonna completely just be like, but I don't like you, but I was like, I never really like had that happen yet before. It was actually both of our first relationships.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so sweet.
And so, like, it was, like, I just, like, said this really long, like, intro to saying, yeah, like you too, which was, like, I don't know why I did that, poor guy. But then, we started dating, but then I did travel, like, study abroad.
Ooh.
So we literally dated for, like, maybe a month before I left for 4 months.
Oh, wow.
So then it was all through FaceTime, and then I got back and stuff. But we only dated for a little over a year before we got engaged.
Aww.
So it was really fast.
We did
too. Yeah. But also, like, I feel like we both were kind of serious already going into it. Like, we already knew that, like, you know, we weren't really wanting to just date for too long. Plus, it kind of fell like in a good timeline where like I would be graduating college, and he already started. So he's doing a PhD also at the same university.
What's his
chemistry.
Chemistry,
Ooh.
Okay.
That's you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have some like giant minds walking around.
I know, we already do, but I mean, yeah.
That's so cool. Okay.
So it kind of felt like in a good timeline to like get married like right after I graduated, and since we were gonna go to the same place, we would just live together and stuff like that. So we got engaged in Switzerland.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think it was like 2 Decembers ago. So bad with timelines again. But I was still like in undergrad. And then we got married. So we got engaged in December, and then we got married in May the next year. So
wow,
really short engagement because his family, there are a lot of them like are like either missionaries and stuff like that, and so a lot of them were gonna leave, and we wanted to get married before they left Florida.
Yeah, that's
that
so
makes
cool.
sense. Yeah.
And so and we like moved to Wesley Chapel when we got married because he was already living there, and then when we moved closer to Carrollwood is when we moved to Carrollwood, not closer to Carrollwood, closer to like
in Carrollwood.
Tampa,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like
You still were moving closer to Carrollwood.
Closer
if you're
and
moving
closer
to Carrollwood.
to downtown.
You weren't wrong.
And we found out about Redeemer just like Google Maps.
Nice. Okay.
Just like churches near us and stuff like that. And yeah, we like did a lot of church searching just because like we were at Wesley Chapel and we were like looking at places there. Yeah. But then when we moved, you know, closer to this area, we like had a whole other options of churches. So it was like a lot of like every Sunday a different church.
Really?
And
man. Yeah.
And that's
like
tough
a lot of people
too. Like being like I don't know. I don't want to say it's like church shopping, but you kind of are in a sense. Yeah, like because I mean you're trying to find a community of people to plug into, and so there's like anytime like when Jamie and I were first dating, and when we got engaged, we started looking for a church to attend, and it felt like we were also trying to date a church, you know, like I hope they like us. I hope I could plug in with them. I hope I like them. You know, it was, I mean, it shouldn't be so like I'm more cerebral like that than Jamie is typically, but but there was like a lot of that. So I could totally see where like it could be stressful to do that after a while, like finding like looking around different churches, seeing something that you could be a part of. You know,
what did you guys like about it? Like, why did you guys decide to stay?
Yeah, so we both grew up in very similar styles of church, I think. Very Pentecostal, we kind of grew up in. And not like we're against it, but there were some things that we just didn't love just from the churches that we went to specifically. So we wanted to get somewhere between. So it's funny because when I went to study abroad, I was going to this Anglican church, which is, I didn't think I would ever go to a church like that, but they were a little bit more like non-denominational Anglican. But I really like some of the, I don't know, like calmness to it. But also they did really nice like acoustic worship that was like modern, and I just really loved it in general. And then Isaiah also like really did like more traditional Anglican stuff. And his brother was going to a new Anglican church here, and stuff like that. And so we kind of wanted to find something in the middle between Pentecostal Anglican, which is such a big spectrum, but also not like I grew up in. Well, when I first started going to the church that I grew up in, it wasn't really large, but then it ended up being a mega church whenever I was like in high school and stuff like that. And so I feel like I didn't really want to go to a big church anymore. I wanted like a smaller, medium size. I didn't want modern churches either, but I also didn't want tiny church where literally like it's just, I don't know, just like a room and, you know, like a few people, like, and it's not anything.
Not house church.
But I feel like house church is nice, but like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like, you know, the ones that just feel kind of dead a little, you know, like, and so when we went to Redeemer, I don't know, it was just like we really enjoyed. The music is always something for me that I always look into. And I didn't want anything that was so flashy anymore. And I really liked like the set. I think it was acoustic that day that we were there. So I really enjoyed that. The building also, like, I don't know why, like we really liked how it kind of like is older, kind of like just kind of made us feel like more homey. I don't know how to describe it. And like
more settled.
Like and
more
the
settled,
pews and all that, like how you're keeping also like the tradition still present and not just getting rid of everything. And like,
that's that like Anglican side. Because I'm totally that same way. Like I have a deep appreciation for like very liturgical things, and as long as you're doing it with purpose, you know, like, and you're remembering these things with purpose. Like I've always had that appreciation for that. And so that's one thing too, when we moved buildings to this church building, I was like, oh, this, it does feel like home, you know? It does.
That's so cool. I love that, because you're right. I mean, that's such a giant pendulum swing from one to the other.
There's
so
a lot
like you
in
could
there.
have found a lot in the middle, but that, I think that's so interesting. And I love hearing how people came to find Redeemer, but then also like what kept them there. Because you're right. I mean, there's so many churches in Tampa. It's crazy. But like, and that's the thing. Like, I think Redeemer does a good job too about partnering with other churches in the area. And like, just like saying, look, if Redeemer is not right for you, there's like a billion others, and like it's just not going to be right for everybody. But then like the vibes are not off at Redeemer. Like I love that about it. All right, so what we know that you serve on the worship team. And then she's going to share her gift with us later, and you'll get to hear her if you've not already. But do you guys serve in any other ministries? Do you have plans to serve in any other ministries?
Yeah, so currently only I just serve in the worship team. I thought about maybe getting involved with the kids. Aww. I used to do a lot of that when I was in the other church. And yeah, I really enjoy kids. And so, I don't know, they bring a lot of joy, and I feel like I would love to serve with them.
I'm not wired that way. So I'm glad that some of you are.
Yeah, I feel like I had to take a little break from doing it because when I grew up, I volunteered in every single ministry.
Oh, yeah.
And it got super exhausting, and I felt like I was just doing it because I had to.
Yeah.
And especially with kids, I don't love being extremely animated, changing my voice, acting in front of people and all that. But I forced myself to do that.
Oh yeah.
And I just felt like if I had to volunteer in kids ministry, I had to do that again. But I don't think that I was that's not what everyone has to do if you help out with kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm maybe I'll sign up for that. And we try to join the city groups and stuff. But with my schedule with work, it's kind of been hard.
I was going to say, it's not like you guys are busy or anything.
Yeah.
Two PhD
trying
students
to become a doctor
trying
here,
to work
right?
and have a flourishing marriage. And I can't even imagine. So how did you, this is kind of a very important one. How did you meet Jesus? What was your journey to meeting him? And then what does your walk look like with him today?
Yeah. So growing up in church,
yeah.
I guess you always assume you're a Christian since you're born. You never have to you feel like you kind of just automatically just are oh yeah, I'm saved and stuff like that. I mean, I prayed the prayer of salvation every single Sunday growing up. You're am I gonna go to hell? I know.
No fire.
Constantly always thinking that. But yeah, it was really interesting, because I grew up in Peru, so half of my family was Catholic, but not super involved in that. And then another half of my family was and over there you call it evangelical or Baptist, in that mix.
Oh, okay.
And when I came here is when we started going to a Pentecostal church. And so yeah, I automatically just assumed I was saved, and I prayed the prayer several times, but it actually really wasn't till college, which is kind of not super recent, but it kind of feels recent, that I actually kind of decided, I think in college, especially when you grew up Christian, you either go one way or the other way.
No doubt.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I went to a Christian private college.
Okay.
So yeah.
Which college?
Southeastern.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I went to Christian private college too for a little bit too. So PD went to one.
Yeah, even
PD,
Mitch and Cam and all. No, Mitch and Kevin and
right? Well, and Cam and Mallory, they went to Clearwater Christian College.
Yeah.
I was a Word of Lifer. I did that.
So you're in good company.
Yeah. So whenever somebody says, "Yeah, I went to a small private Christian college," that's
Yeah.
those who
Bible
have
kids.
are oh, you did too?
Yes, it's you all should know each other.
Yeah. We all have our secret tattoos of that,
Yeah.
Secret society.
It's Jeep owners that wave at each other, the small Christian private school kids, we're yo, what's up?
And so you chose the Jesus way?
Yes. So I definitely, tested out different non-Christian lifestyles. And honestly, I feel I, was still protected during that because I feel I don't know, just from other people's experiences, they went farther and did a lot of crazier things. And I mean, completely went off the wrong track, and some friends of mine and stuff like that. So I feel it truly was protected because right at the beginning, I just was I don't find this fun. I don't know why people will do this. I just didn't see anything exciting about it for me. And yeah, I just knew deep inside in my heart that this is not, gonna fulfill me, and this is not going to, I don't even last long either, because it's just like feelings are fleeting, and there has to be something deeper. And from everything that I learned from growing up, I already knew that it was Jesus. And so, yeah, I truly, committed my life again to him. And then, just tried to, I feel like before it was more like not a choice of myself. It's more like, you have to do all this growing up. Did you read your devotional today? Like stuff like that, and feel forced and stuff like that. And so then now it's like, okay, like I'm going to do stuff for myself and not set all these pressures and high standards to be the perfect Christian and to, acts of versus like actually a relationship with God. And so I think I changed a lot of like how I viewed Christianity, and that made me actually want a relationship with God versus being more like, ugh, like, do I have to do this?
Yeah.
And you read scripture totally different too from that perspective, because if you're forced to do it as a kid, well, I don't want to say forced, but like if you're forced, if you're severely influenced, like I was too growing up, but like you read it one way, but then once you get to the point where you have that personal relationship with God, then scripture becomes totally different to you. I read the Bible totally different now because of that, and I love that, and helps make the living word living in my life, So.
Yeah, and it's profound what you're saying, because I think you'll find in Christian circles, like a lot of people have that experience where they grew up in church and they were always there, and then you've got the other group that's like they only started going to church like much later in their, so like people's perspective about their growing up is just so vastly different. But it's profound, because I feel like the kids are going to be all right. Like your generation is so much smarter than I feel like we were in our 20s. But like to know that God said, like he was pursuing you and had set you apart is just so beautiful. Like, because I was not that way. Like I in my college years, in my early 20s, I went off the deep end, and like I liked it. Like I was like, I broke every like bubble around me, and I was like, woo, party, and God really had to do a number on me to get me back. But he got a hold of your heart earlier than that, and like just kept you and preserved you. And you have to attribute that to him and to his spirit and to yours too, because you were like, I'm going to listen and I'm not going to rebel, like not everybody has that beautiful like story, and pseudo jealous. All right. So let me ask this. Why did you say yes to doing the podcast?
So I'm an avid podcast listener. Like I
love it.
love podcasts. I started off really just with listening with one, and then now like I have a podcast for almost like every day of the week. Though like I might listen to like 4 in one day, because I just love, like if I have time, like it'll just be my background when I'm getting ready, when I'm cleaning, when I'm driving to school, all sorts of things, like just a podcast. And I was like, when I heard you guys were doing a podcast, I was like, oh wait, that's so interesting. I never heard of like a church doing like a podcast with like its members. Usually it's like just a pastor, like someone that works.
Someone who's really good at speaking in front of people.
Not us.
We're willing to. We're not necessarily good at it. That could be dangerous, but
I thought it was a really cool concept about like getting to know each of the members of the church. I always like, when I went to churches and I was doing the church hopping, right, like you would see people on stage, and sometimes you're like, you felt like they were almost like unattainable, not able to reach. And I'm even like, like growing up in different churches and stuff, it just felt like I knew them, but not really. And like, like it's just, I don't know, like, and I wanted to always go to a church where it felt like a family, where it felt like community, like everyone is doing life together. And so I felt like this podcast is such a good idea, honestly. Like I was like, oh wow, like to like listen to everyone's stories and like get to know them better, because then we don't all have time to just go up on stage and do a sermon each day, like each of us individually about our testimony and stuff like that. So I was like, oh yeah, that's so cool. And then I was thinking about it whenever like they're like, who wants to volunteer for it, like just let us know. And Isaiah and I was like, like I don't know, like for me it was more like I'm a little shy, and like I don't love like like watching myself like on a video and like hearing myself speak and stuff like that. But I felt like I was like, okay, like I don't feel scared about this. I feel like because I like the concept and I want to know people, and if they get to know me too, I feel like, okay, that might be fun. Like, and I mean, podcasting, like I was like, I'll give it a try.
I love that. Yeah, when we started this, we really wanted people to just share their stories so it could like tighten the bond in the community and stuff. And I'm really glad that you're doing it too, because this is I think this is the first episode where we don't know our guest at all. Like we've never been in a small group together. Like we never hung out, right? Like, and so I was really excited about this one because I'm like, talk about getting to know somebody. This is like fresh slate, and I've already learned more about you in the past 10 minutes than I have like the whole podcast. And like something that's so funny, we've had a few technical difficulties with this episode so far. I hope with the editing you can't tell, but we had like a dog over here in one shot and now she's not over here.
Mackie.
So yeah, we're just kind of splicing these together.
Our
but
senior pup.
Yeah, but it's just funny because I feel like the enemy does not want this. You know, he really doesn't want people hearing each other's stories and going, man, you know, I really connect with that. I really understand what she means by that. And you know what? Now I feel more comfortable that I can walk up to her on a Sunday and be like, man, I heard your episode. And let me just tell you, like, you know, I grew up in that faith too. And I had that same, it's just like, it binds the body together. And that's what all this is about. So I love that answer. We have not had an answer like that. And I think it's exciting. All right. And so, okay, we're going to move into the 2% segment in a minute, but one more. Tell us just like something interesting or silly or funny about you, and then we'll move into that. Anything you want. Doesn't have to be embarrassing. Just
so this took a little thought to it, and then literally like right before we started, I was like, oh wait, this is something interesting. So I did a solo backpacking trip to Paris.
Okay.
And then I met up with my husband. Well, he wasn't even my husband. We were just dating. In Germany, and when it was like before Christmas. It was in December, but it was before Christmas. So like in Germany, they have these little like Christmas markets, and it literally looks like you're in a movie set or something like that.
It's like a Hallmark movie.
Well, that's the funny thing.
They
were filming a Hallmark movie while we were there.
Okay.
And like we were shopping, not really shopping. We were just like, you know, looking at all the little markets. And we were at a booth, and I was just looking at this stuff, and I literally looked to my right, and they're filming a movie, and they're slowly starting to, like, pan to where we are. And, like, I'm with, you know, my husband, who's my boyfriend, and his brother and sister, and we were just, like, whispering, like, wait, what's going on? Like, is this Hallmark? We were asking people around us, like, what's going on? All this stuff. And we're like, oh, my gosh, they're going to, we're gonna have us in the background, and so we're just like pretending to like shop, like looking at the stuff, and and we're like, oh my gosh, we need to see this when this comes out. And then I think it literally was this past Christmas, randomly, like I just turned Hallmark on.
No.
Well, sadly we weren't on it.
Oh, man.
But the it starts like showing like the scene that we're there, and I'm like, wait, oh my gosh, are we going to be in a movie? And then no, we weren't there, sadly. But
so cool.
yeah.
But you were there.
Yeah.
You were there.
But it was
on
so
set.
funny and so random. And I was like, is this how they film movies? Like with like straight, like real people just like there.
Unbeknownst to them, so that they get a really authentic shot. That is so cool.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's one of my like, I wouldn't even call it like a guilty pleasure because there's nothing wrong with it. I love Hallmark movies.
Okay. Yeah.
I love Christmas movies. Okay. Not the ones where like, you know, the wife murders the husband or whatever. There's those Hallmark movies too, but like the Christmas ones.
I thought that was investigative discovery movies.
That's a totally different channel, but like I love those.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's like a really interesting fact. Okay. We've had a couple shared in previous episodes of like, you know, somebody having an accident on themselves, or like, you know, somebody lost their shirt in a factory. So like that one I think wins because that one's like really interesting.
I know. I was like, wait, this is actually like a fun fact about me.
Well,
I guess.
And not even that you were just like might have been in a Hallmark movie, but you're like solo backpacking to Paris. Like, that's enough. Like, that's really cool.
After I watched Taken and told myself I would never do that.
Yeah.
I will find you.
And then
I will
watched
come
Taken
for
2 and I told myself I wouldn't do it. And then I watched Taken 3 and told myself
I watched
really not
all
gonna
of
do
them.
this.
Like, and for some reason I did it. I don't know.
Still went. That is so cool. Oh man, I've never done anything like that. Oh, okay. All right. So let's move into the 2% questions. We'll kind of just cover. We've unpacked the pod. Hopefully by now, you guys watching or listening, we know what we're all about. But it's essentially just a podcast about worship, right? Like what it is, why we do it, how we can do it more. So let me ask this, because a lot of what we do as worshipers centers around this idea of art and beauty. And without art or beauty, like, I think we're robots, and I think God designed us this way. So how did you discover your artistic talent? And then at what point did you decide to use it for the glory of God?
Yeah, so growing up, I love that my parents always pushed for us to do like art classes and music classes and like other hobbies than just, school. So from an early age, like they put us into guitar and piano lessons. So my sister did piano and I was doing guitar, but I quit because my fingers hurt. Which obviously, I mean, you have to get calluses and all that.
That's what I always tell people at the very beginning. Like, what's some advice on learning to play? Like, your fingers are gonna hurt, and don't complain about it.
Yeah.
Like, they'll stop eventually, but that's a tough one though to get past. Yeah.
Right, and even also with like stretching your hand, and like I feel like I always have smaller hands too, and so I'd always complain about that, and so I quit. But then my parents were like, well, then you have to do piano. Like you have to play a musical instrument.
Wow, yeah.
And so because I was forced into piano, I didn't take it seriously, which now I was like, oh, I wish, because like I love classical music and I just wish I could play all these like crazy songs. But yeah, so I did piano for a little bit, but I didn't like the whole like recitals. I hated doing that. And so when I was young, like I always thought, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be on Disney. Like I think every girl like my age goes through that. And so I wanted to take singing lessons. And my parents were like, if you take singing lessons, are you going to actually sing? So like, are you going to like sing for church? Are you going to like, what are you going to do with it? Like we don't want to just pay for singing lessons. And I was like, yeah, I'll do something. And so they tried that out. But I didn't want to sing. Like I wouldn't sing in front of my parents. I would sing, literally practice in my room, because like that's how shy I was. Like I did not like performing, practicing in front of people. And so they were like, no, you have to go back to piano lessons. And so I went back to piano lessons. So it's literally a lot of back and forth stuff. Like until I heard of this when I was older. I think it was like in high school. I heard of this like a vocal instructor that all my other friends that sang at church were taking with, like, and it was more like classical type of singing. I just was like, oh, if they're doing it, like I want to like also like take singing lessons, and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't like performing in front of people. So my sister told, like, because she was already in the band, in the church youth band, she told the worship leader that I could do a Spanish song for like an intro or something, like for like something to do news, so like make the service a little bit more fun. And they agreed to it, and then my sister was like, yeah, you're gonna do a Spanish song. And I was like, what? But at the same time I was like, that sounds fun. Like obviously I was so nervous. Like that was my first time performing really like in church settings in like a large group. And so I was like completely like just like, what? But I agreed to do it just because, like, I don't know, I feel like I've always like liked music, and I felt something inside me like, okay, like I can do this, so I did it, and then automatically I joined the youth band after that. Like I guess that was like my test trial. And then I was part of the youth band, and then the kids band, and then the young adults band, and then the adults band, and then the Hispanic church band, and just involved in all that. But I think like my heart when I first entered, like it was set in the right intentions of like using my gifts to worship, but it went away like because of, I guess, like the style of some of the things I grew up was more like about perfecting, you know, everything. And so, yeah, my heart quickly, like, just became more like, I need to be perfect. I need to sing perfect. Like, it's a whole performance type of thing. So, that made it harder, though, whenever, you know, I got married and I, you know, stopped going to the church I grew up in and finding a new church. And then, like, I was like, I don't really want to be a part of a worship team for, like, a while. Like, I was like, I like the idea and I love singing, but, like, I really don't want to put myself back there again, just with the wrong intentions and just the not enjoying worship anymore and not enjoying going to church and, like, if I'm not singing, being, like, watching and being, like, criticizing everything and stuff like that. And so it took a while, like, after I started Redeemer to, you know, like, feel like, okay, maybe I could start, you know, being part of the band. And I went to the meeting that, like, the worship team meeting that you're like, if anyone wants to be a part. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna just see what that is about. And yeah, I was like, I felt like after, like, I talked about it with my husband, like, I feel like this, like, is not like a toxic setting to be in a worship team. Like, I've been in a few little toxic settings growing up. I was like, this seems like pretty good. Like, I don't know, like, I just felt really like I didn't feel anxious, and I felt like, okay, like, even if it doesn't work out, like, you know, like, I'll try it and see, you know. And yeah, it went really well. Like, I felt like I would come to the practices and I just felt, I don't know, like, it wasn't anything about, like, melody, tempo, beat, setting. Like, it wasn't rigid at all. And I was already ready, like, to, you know, have, like, the super strict, like, I don't know, my mind was like, that was the only thing I was ever, like, exposed to. And so I was ready, and, like, just, like, my mind was, and when I joined it, I was like, oh wait, like, this is, I don't know, it was like a breath of fresh air. Like, okay, like, this is not, like, worship does not have to be so rigid. Like, it truly is just using your gift. And it's kind of like, for me, like, I always say, it's like preaching but singing, because, like, I'm not a good, like, preacher. Like, if I were to do, I've tried before doing little sermons here and there, and I just, it's not my gift. And so when singing, though, like, I'm like, okay, like, I can do that. Like, if that's my form of, you know, preaching, like, I can do that. And so that's kind of how I found out my talents for worship.
Yeah, it's quite moving. We talked with Josh in his episode about authenticity and just, like, you know, being able to take the mask off and like having that goal for the church, like, as a people. And I think a lot of people at Redeemer do that very well, but I think the worship team particularly, like you said, just very warm and welcoming environment, and you know, they really care about being those ushers of bringing people into the presence of God. And we joke a lot, like, just put a curtain in front of us. We don't want anybody to see us. We just, like, want to, don't let anyone see us. Just hear what we're doing and do the same thing, right? Like we really just want to be those ushers into the presence of God. But yeah, I mean, I think it's there's a little bit of an epidemic, I think, in a lot of churches where it does become performative, and it's like, hey, get the fog machine out and let's do laser lights. And it's like, okay, I mean, that works for some people. Like, I'm not knocking it. Like, if that's your thing and that's how you connect with God, more power to you. Like, you literally need more power to make all that work. Haha, that was a dad joke. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, if that's just not your vibe, like, yeah, Redeemer, we're just, like, a little different in that way. Okay, so I love that. I guess what I'm saying is I love that answer. Okay, so what are your artistic inspirations, and, like, what do you find truly beautiful?
Yeah, so, like I was saying, I really love classical music, and because of how it's, like, just so stripped down to, like, instrumental, but obviously, like, I love hearing people sing, and so I've always been the more inspired by songs that are very, like, authentic, like what you're saying, where more like melodies or hymns, like older style of worship. Not like I love, like, a lot of modern, like, Christian songs, but I feel like whenever it's so raw and it's, like, the voice, like a piano, maybe, like, a violin,
a dog back there,
like, in the guitar, and, like, I feel like that's where I get so emotional sometimes when I listen to some songs that are like that, just because it feels like you can sense that like they're just truly meaning every word that they're saying. Versus sometimes when you hear songs that are, you know, like on the radio, if they're like on the Christian radio, it feels like, okay, like it was just like a song they had to like release, you know, or like they had to sing it, the same topic, you know, and stuff like that. Versus like these songs that are just hit like really hard because like, you know, the person was, when they wrote it, like they were actually like going through something, like you can sense all the emotion. And that's I think more like where I'm inspired, like those types of songs.
I love that, because again, I mean, you're 20 years younger than me. Shut up, whatever. No, 15 maybe. Okay, so it's just there's a generational difference, right? And then we've got folks that go to Redeemer that are like even 20 years older than me, right? So you've got all these different generations that go where we go, and so many different preferences and how people grew up. And so you might have the people that like they are like Elevation, Maverick City all day long, which is beautiful music. But then you have folks that are like hymnals. I just want a piano and a singer, and like beautiful too. But then I think the mix of that, and then like not, like you said, like not trying to overproduce even a worship set. Like I think our leadership team does an incredible job about like going, forget the music. What are the lyrics? Like what's the message of what we're trying to do? Like, does this song edify the body? Does it glorify God? Like, if not, forget it. Scrap it. You know, and so I just think they do a really good job of that. But like also, and I wanted to say it like every question you've answered, but like you have such a beautiful voice and such a gifting. And I think there's an anointing on you when you sing. And like, you know, the Bible's very clear. It says every good and every perfect gift comes down from the Father of lights above. And so like that talent that he's put in you is just like so from him and so anointed. So and so every time you're up there, and at PD always like schedules like one girl like at a time. So like we need to sing together maybe someday.
Yeah, we need all, but like you two and Susie all like on the same Sunday.
Yeah, but like also when you're up there and I'm down here, I get to kind of just like listen. You know, I don't get to do that when I'm up there. And so I really do love hearing it. And so I think people can see your heart too, that it is very authentic. And I think it speaks to the kind of people that, you know, are on the team, and they like, you just kind of gravitate toward each other when you find like your people, you know? So, Okay. Let me describe, well, we've kind of talked about like the 2% and, I guess, how do you stay enmeshed in that idea of like this constant worship, like it being a lifestyle rather than, I just show up on Sundays and I sing and then I peace out and I go back to my life. Like, what does it look like to be a 24/7 worshiper, and how do you find those opportunities?
Yeah, I think a lot has to do with like keeping yourself around like a good community. I feel like that's really hard when you do have a busy schedule and setting time for people, but I think I noticed that like myself, like I get a lot more happier, and then like I want to be, you know, a better Christian stuff when I'm in a community around people who have the same goals as myself. Being in the career that I am, it's not at all like a Christian environment, and so I can tell in myself like when my mind starts shifting in different directions, because I'm not, you know, like really putting myself around the people that will help me grow in my Christian faith and just have, you know, similar viewpoints as me. And so I really liked city groups, and like I was going to a few, and every time I'm like, oh, like am I able to make it to one? But I think that's so important, community. I always tell my husband, I feel like, I don't know, guys have a harder time like hanging out with people and scheduling things with friends and stuff. But I'm always like you need to hang out with guy friends, or like I'm like, I'm hanging out with this friend, and like just constantly putting myself around Christian people that like you will just like, you know, help each other grow, and just like it's like a beautiful way to live rather than like isolating yourself. And like I don't know, like I feel like that's a really thing that's helped me. And also like listening to worship music, I feel like sometimes like growing up, a lot of people of my friends just didn't like listening to worship music because you grow up, you go to church, you hear it, your parents play it on the radio. It's just like constantly around you.
Yeah.
But I think like there's also so many different areas or genres of Christian music that like a lot of us, we just think like alternative Christian, whatever's playing on the radio.
Yeah.
But
That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
There's so much like underneath all that, and it's a microcosm of the broader music world, you know.
Yeah, and so like really like, you know, finding what is the best for you and what you like find worship is for that. Because like it's so funny when I got to know my husband, he loves like indie and like all of this like like songs and like bands I'd never heard before. And like for him, worship is like these songs. I'm like, that's not what like I thought worship was. But to him, like it's like I was like, wait, what? Like how do you, he's like, I asked him like, oh, what songs would you want to hear, you know, on Sunday? And he's told me some songs. I was like, that does not sound like a song you play at a church. Like, you know, like,
but I like those.
Yeah.
Too. Like, that's.
I'm like, how do you stand there like with your hands and like worship to a song that doesn't have anything repeating over, like, you know, verse after verse after verse? Like, how do you do that? Because like you're not used to that. But that just shows like how like, you know, like worship to everyone is different. And I think it's mainly about, you know, the lyrics. What are the lyrics saying that, you know, hit like really truly inspires people, and like what, you know, like everyone's going through something differently, and you know, like each song is just it like touches everyone so differently, and like I don't know, just
it's very diverse. I think God has hardwired us all, like I said it the last episode, like we're all so different in what we find that connection through to him. Like your husband may find it through indie, you may find it through like classical music when you're cleaning, and I like kind of same here. And I like I've seen YouTube videos of U2, the band U2, and like they look like worship concerts. Like people are just like, and it's I mean I don't know. Like you're saying, God is so diverse in the way that He has designed us, but there's always one source that it all comes back to.
Yeah, we may be at different points of starting the journey to like focus on Him or get to or not get to Him, but because he's there, right? Yeah. But like in our worship lanes, you know, we all start in different points, but we always end up in the same place. Yeah. Because we were saying on like one of the other pods with Josh, how like somebody could have like a spoken word is what brings them into, or like a good book brings them into this worshipful space where they really are acknowledging God's presence in that moment. And then somebody else, it's a song, whether there's words to it or not, can bring them there too. But we all start in those different places, but we all end up at that same source, that same creator to worship Him. So there's
probably like you talk to every single person that goes to our church, they'll all give you a totally separate story about like this connected me to God once, and you're like, that okay, like it just it's so distinct and unique for people. And something you said earlier that I wanted to touch on too is in the environment that you're in with your career, I think a lot of times people will pit science against God. And like they don't belong together. Like they've got their own lanes. You don't put them together. We don't talk about it.
I feel like that's another pod episode. Is just sitting talking about like how do you coexist, or how do you exist, or how do you compromise, or whatever you do in the space that you're in. Yeah, and it's just so funny because like I've like just recently in the last few years have like realized that all science is just us trying to explain what God did. So it's just like we're just trying to find the words to describe like what He already set in motion. So they absolutely belong in the same sentence together. But I can imagine in your line of work that there's just a very real nope. They're very much separated, and we don't talk about God here. What are some of the lesser loves that you think people like they can't enmesh fully in the 2%, or they don't feel like they're able to worship 24/7? Which, like, let's be realistic, that's kind of hard anyway. But like, what are some of the like distractions or things that keep people from entering that lifestyle?
So when I read this question, I thought of it a little differently. So I don't know if this answer is going to be exactly. But what I thought about immediately was just how, like, it's like we have a lot of distractions in life. And I feel like, especially with my, like, you know, my generation, we have a lot of like, mindset of you, like, you know, what is best for you, very much how do you like do what you want to do to make you happy and stuff like that. And I've even experienced that with like therapists, like where near the end it just kind of became of like, but what do you want, like all this stuff about and I just feel like that doesn't get you anywhere, and that doesn't really, like, I don't know, there's just no purpose. And what is the best thing for you? Because at the end, like, that's also just feelings and emotions and fleeting, and life is not just about us, it's about, you know, everyone around us, and how we can help each other and stuff like that. And so I think just like getting off that mindset and just being more like a servant of what God calls us to be, and like a Christian, thinking about others. And that's also like a way of worshiping, you know, like giving your time for others, you know, being someone there for a need for a friend. And I just like, that's how I thought of it, more like the question.
That's so good. Yeah, no, that's a great answer. I mean, you, like the self is a massive like distraction for people entering into worship 24/7. I mean, the times that we just think about, what do I need? What's my truth? Like, there's one truth, and that's Jesus. Like, that's my truth idea. Yeah, that's, you read it right. That's beautiful. Okay. And so how would you advise those listening? Like, how would you challenge them to enmesh themselves, like practical ways to like worship 24/7, no matter where they are or what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, you could listen to a podcast.
Hey.
Like that answer. Okay.
You plugged it, not us.
Yeah, but like, I feel like that kind of goes back to what I was talking about, how, you know, like daily living, like how do you put little things here and there? Like, yeah, like could be listening to podcasts, could be listening to worship music. It could be hanging around people around you that are, you know, inspiring and just keep you in that mindset. Maybe reading a book that is of interest. I feel like I've always had a hard time with reading books if they didn't like specifically, you know, like talk about something that like personally will. But when I did find that book, I feel like, wow, this is like so eye-opening. Yeah, I feel like I wish I could think of more things, but even just like for me, and I feel like for another question about the where you find beauty and stuff, I feel like nature, like for like how do you keep yourself in a worship mindset, even going out in nature? And like my husband says that like what helps him, you know, get closer to God is when he's walking and he reminds himself what he's thankful for. And I feel like you can do that wherever you are. You don't have to be walking in nature, but you can be driving. And when you get into that thankfulness mindset, it completely strips away all those selfish, you know, thoughts. And then like, I don't know, just changes your heart. And then it makes you just want to do things for other people instead of living for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, pseudo psychology, they call it pop psychology, TikTok psychology today. They're like, oh, mindfulness and
they should call it toxicology.
Gratitude, but that's biblical. That's scripture. I mean, it says in everything give thanks, let your petitions be made known unto God. And like, this is a biblical, Jesus-centered way of living. It's like when you enter into gratitude, it's like, boop, totally resets, I think, the brain. So we're going to move into what we call missing child segment. Kind of hating that we called it that. It's kind of, I don't love that, but you know, it's the
it was
milk carton. I know
this was your idea,
but now every time I say it, I'm like womp womp.
It made me think of like in the Walmart or like Sam's Club, you know, by the bathroom, the bulletin board.
That's what
immediately. Oh my gosh, that is. Yeah, it's not on the milk cartons anymore.
It's
like
by the restrooms in Walmart.
Yeah, it started out as like a very benign idea, but now it sounds mean. All right, what is missing today from modern worship, do you think?
Yeah, so I love how you said Josh talked about authenticity, but that's what like I was thinking when answering this question. Yeah, just pure authenticity. I feel like being in a Christian university that also has a really well-known band that I don't want to talk bad about, but I think I saw a lot of toxic things on that, and everyone who went to that university also can attest for that. Like, it didn't feel like the band was there to worship. They felt like it was more there for, like the performance and the stage of it. And also I feel like that can, when like a mega church can also get into that mindset of, and like, you're just doing this because for you, who doesn't like, feeling, like being praised and stuff, validated. But like the whole point of worship is to be praising God and not a person. You're just like the vessel. You're just trying to use your talents that God gave you, and so that's where like our selfish nature as humans, takes over, and we just change the whole point of what worship is. And I think modern day churches, it's hard, right? Because you want your church to grow, and with growth also comes in the parts where like little things, can, of the world can like creep in, and it's hard to be authentic if you get burnt out, or if you,
Preach,
stuff like that. Like, I feel like it's our, we're fighting our human flesh and just trying to remind ourselves of, like, okay, why are we here? And, this is for God, and just constantly like, going back to that, because our human flesh just wants to take over sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vision up, vision in, vision out. And like we talked about how Jerome likes that word recalibrate, and it's like, that if God is the source, and this is who we're meant to be worshiping, and we go, oh, I went over here today, I didn't have a great day, go back, recalibrate, go back, right? And like the further you get, the harder it is to recalibrate back. And that's good. Authenticity. I mean, that's been a theme, I think, in this podcast too, is that we just don't want to wear the masks, we want to be real. And you had a tough day, say you had a tough day, but worship through it,
like, I love how you said that too, about like saying you have a tough day, because I feel like sometimes, like, when people see people on the like stage, they think they're perfect, and they think that they have their lives together.
And I still fall into that too. And like, I've been on stage countless times, at our church or other churches or things like that, and I know that full and well. But I still struggle
seeing other
people that way. Like, even Mitch, like Mitch is up there all the time speaking. And I just, like, there's a lot of times where I catch myself assuming that Mitch is, like, arrived. Like, oh, he's at the holy part. When God says, be holy, for I'm holy. Yeah. He's arrived there, and I'm like, no. Yep. Mitch is, deals with, family life, with work, with people.
Same stuff we do.
Yeah, everything that we do. He deals with those same exact things, So I have to catch myself with that.
Yeah. But even to be, like, having a conversation about it and being willing to say, we are so not perfect, and that's why we're up there. It's like, we're not perfect. The cat's out of the bag. I think you guys probably knew that, but so all right, we're going to move into a segment now where Ellie is going to share her gift with us. We're going to cut to a video actually of her singing, so enjoy.
Dinner for two, just me and you. Let's take some time.
heavens have been parted. Now we just gotta be together. Now we just gotta be together. Now we just gotta be together. And I love you in the morning, in the noontime, in the evening. You're my one thing, you're my dearest. Here's my love note, can you hear it? And I love you in the morning, in the noontime, in the evening. You're my one thing, you're my dearest. Here's my love note, can you hear it? I'm above you, I'm beneath you, I'm before you, I'm behind you. I'm above you, I'm beneath you, I'm before you, I'm behind you. I'm above you, I'm beneath you, I'm before you, I'm behind you. I'm above you, I'm beneath you, I'm before you, I'm behind you. I'm all around you. I'm all around you. I'm all around you. I'm all around you. And I love you in the morning, in the noontime, in the evening. You're my one thing, you're my dearest. Here's my love note, can you hear it? And I love you in the morning, in the noontime, in the evening. You're my one thing, you're my dearest. Here's my love note, can you hear it?
All right, so you just heard Ellie sing. Beautiful voice. We already knew that. I hope if you've never heard her before, you were very blessed by that. I'm like really excited to have had you. I feel like we got to know you better just sitting here for the 2 hours that it took to get this done because our computer keeps crashing out.
Yes.
But
Love you,
no,
Mac.
I really enjoyed this, and I can't wait to get to know you guys more. And even Isaiah, he's very soft spoken. I think like you, at least in front of people. I don't know how he is.
I feel like there's a lot of profound things in his brain.
I do too.
It's
I do too.
so profound.
Yeah, I could tell that about him, and
I want to
I'm
pick
gonna
his
draw it
brain a
out.
little more because he's kind of a jokester too, which caught me
Yeah.
off guard. But like I was like,
so
oh,
funny.
okay.
For the longest time, I referred to him because when you guys came to that worship,
No, you don't talk about it. We're not talking about.
We can talk about
Are
it.
you sure?
Yeah, we can. We just have to let everyone know that
It's not real.
It's not real.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So when you guys first came and you introduced yourselves, I'm terrible with names. I'm way better with like talking about what we last talked about than remember people's names. So I couldn't remember your husband's name, but I always when he introduced himself, he's like, I'm an interpretive dancer.
But like stone cold
Stone
straight face. And we were like,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. And then he's like, I'm joking. We were like, oh my God, that's
Yeah,
so
and
funny.
so after that, I was like, yeah, Ellie's husband, the interpretive dancer. And so
Oh my
he's
gosh.
not really,
Yeah.
It doesn't really.
but I loved his humor because
Yes.
one day, like, I just expect him to like go full bore into a joke about it and come in while we're rehearsing.
No.
And
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
That would be something.
That was funny though. But no, I mean, I've enjoyed getting to know you better, and I know just like
Yes.
as the months and years go by at Redeemer, I'm sure we'll get to know you guys better. And then, as far as like your studies and both of you like trying to get your PhD, like obviously the church, we want to like surround you guys with just support, and like that's not easy. It's like that's not easy. And you're like, you know, newly married, kind of still newly, and like so just trying to find y'all's way there and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm just really excited that you guys are here, and I love hearing you sing. And so Sundays, you know, watch online, or if you come to Redeemer, she'll be there every once in a while. So yeah, with that, we're going to sign off. So you guys, 2% fam, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Again, post in the comments, just, things you guys want to hear on Sundays. We'll tell Petey, throw some stuff in the rotation, or maybe things you guys want to see. Like we've talked about connection with God and like the different things that like get people. And like, so if yours is like, I want to see somebody paint live during a service. Mm-hmm. Heck yeah. Like, somebody that does that, you tell them to come. Like stuff like that just makes you feel that connection. Or like, maybe we should try a worship service in nature. Like come on, I don't know, like we could get the wheels turning there, but like worship arts, that idea of bringing arts back to worship. So post in the comments, but we really appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Like and subscribe. Peace out.
With real life stories on display, gifts and talents in every way, building up a community. Have you had your 2% today?
What's up, 2% fam? My name is Emily Leatherman. Make sure you like and subscribe. Bye!